what's the use of two strong legs if you only run away? And what use is the finest voice when you have nothing good to say? What good is strength and muscle if you only push and shove? And what's the use of two good ears when you can't hear those you love? It's not just what you're born with, it's what you choose to bear. And it's not how big your share is, but how much you can share. And it's not the fights you dreamed of, but those you really fought. It's not what you've been given, it's what you do with what you've got. Yeah, it's not just what you're born with, it's what you choose to bear. And it's not how big your share is, but how much you can share. And it's not the fights you dreamed of, but those you really fought. It's not what you've been given, it's what you do with what you've got.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to Seeds of Revolution. I'm very excited today to interview one of our Camas Microgrant recipients from 2026, Nam, and Nam is with the St. John's Free Fair. Nam, thank you so much for joining Seeds of Revolution today. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
So we are all the way out in Victoria, quite away from St. John's. So maybe you could start off by telling us a little bit about what the Free Fair is, the background of your organizational efforts, and what you and your comrades hope to achieve with the Free Fair.
Yeah, maybe I'll just start off by saying I'm in St. John, New Brunswick, not St. John's, Newfoundland, which is often a very common confusion. But so the Free Fair is a 4 or 5 hour event usually, and it consists of a bunch of stuff that people can take for free. And this might include things like clothes, things like winter gear, shoes, kitchen stuff, kids, books, and toys, and hygiene products, non-perishable food items, all kinds of things. Everything is for free. Everything is sourced from the community. We give out calls usually a couple of months before the event, and then people just give out a bunch of things, and we bring all that together. But that is only one part of it. The other part of it is we have music, we have art, we have free food. And the food is, as you can imagine, one of the big pulls for people because we usually manage to have food for about 500 to 600 people, which for the size of St. John is a huge event because St. John is about 70,000 people. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. This year we're doing something. We're doing another experimental thing, which will be a town hall. So during the 4 hours, 1 hour will be dedicated to the town hall, where we plan to discuss local issues, what people have on their minds, and hopefully build something towards direct action, as opposed to petitioning governments and things like that.
Could you talk to us a little bit about how the Free Fair got started, how your collective got started?
Yeah, so this was born out of the Palestine movement. So after October 7th in 2023, a bunch of people started doing rallies and events like film screenings around Palestine stuff. And part of it was also here that there is very little awareness of what's happening in Palestine or even the historical context of October 7th. So the people who are today involved in free fairs, some of the main ones got into it at that time. And then as we started doing that, we realized obviously there's other needs in the community and lots of local stuff, lots of poverty. St. John is one of the poorer cities in Canada, even though we have some of the largest industries in Canada, which, it's kind of related, those two things. So yeah, we started initially with something called the Free Store, which was a smaller event only focused on stuff and not these extra pieces that we have now, which is a much bigger event. So our first Free Store happened in, I want to say, winter of 24. And we had about 200 people come in and people lining up for I mean, there was clearly a need in the community for something like that. And from there, we've since done a lot of other things like that, like the free store, and then that kind of expanded into the free fair last year, which was a much bigger event. And this year, I think it will be a little bit bigger than last year. So
That's very interesting. How do you go from Palestine liberation activism to a free store and a free fair? Not that there's certainly
yeah,
anything wrong with that. That's an incredible decision to make. But it seems like there's lots of different paths that you and others could have gone down out of free Palestine activism. Why did you settle on a free store and a free fair as an extension of the Free Palestine movement?
so there's lots of directions actually that people did go in. It's not that everybody who was part of the Palestine stuff went into the free fair. I think mainly what tended to happen with that movement was we realized there's some of the issues in St. John are related to poverty. Some are related to historically St. John has been a very white city,
Mhm.
and what that means is people the level of awareness about global issues, the level of solidarity with other issues like homelessness or Palestine, or even what's happening in the US with policing and border enforcement, all this stuff is just almost non-existent here. And there are little pockets, individual people doing different things, but overall the picture doesn't come together easily. And so just to build a movement, even there's a lot of moving pieces needed. And we realized that if we cannot find ways to bring people together and create spaces where people can come together, then this would be really hard to fight.
Mm.
There's a lot of, as you know, I'm sure it's the same in Victoria, there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of whitewashing on mainstream media, CTC, and also on obviously social media. So, unless there are reliable local networks and ways to bring out information, but also spaces where people can hang out and talk about these different things, there's just no way to take the movement forward because the average person you talk to on the street has no clue what we're even talking about, right? So we'd go do a Palestine rally and the flag, and people are like, what have we got to do with any of this, right? So,
Did you meet
so
did you meet hostility in St. John as a result of Palestine liberation action, or was it mostly ignorance and apathy?
oh, there is a lot of hostility too. So at different levels. So for example, there's the University of New Brunswick, which has a campus here. There was a small, I wouldn't even call it an encampment, but people were not staying overnight, but people were sitting outside
Hmm.
and with flags and signs and stuff. And we had police called on us for nothing, for basically not doing anything. And then the union, the teachers union, eventually it was against the collective agreement, and the administration had to back off of that. But there has been constant pushback, and when we're outside, not in the university but in the city, often we will be threatened with people. We've been told, "I'm going to come back with a gun and shoot you all."
Mm.
So, and these are not people who know what's going on, right? Often people are like, "This has nothing to do with anything. Go back to your country," as if we are all from the same country, which we're not. And also, it doesn't help that the local MP here, Wayne Long, is very infamous for his anti-Palestinian racism and has always stood against anything that we're doing. In fact, he came to one of our rallies with his secretary, and this was kind of in the news at the time. This was a couple of years ago. And she went up to the white people in the rally and asked them, "Why are you here?"
Only the white people, though.
Yeah, only the white people.
God.
So yeah, there's been a lot of hostility, and police always show up to, if not do anything, but even just to intimidate us
Sure.
and just to talk about. One time we were walking down the street, and police were like, "This is not safe for children," because there were children in the rally, and that kind of stuff. It's always they're watching, and they're kind of just trying to find a way to get at you and stuff like that.
How did you personally come to this sort of activism, first with Palestine liberation and then with the Free Fair?
Well, so I I'm not very old in Canada. I have only been in Canada since 2022. So I was doing other stuff. My introduction to politics was through the communists back home in India, and I was part of other land-related movements on and off, and through student movements. Like the student movements in India are way more radical than they are here. So I was, I was part of those things. And then when I came here, of course, the context is completely different because, for one thing, the University of New Brunswick basically has no student movement, or barely any. And it is constantly this language of depoliticized teaching and constantly pushing in this direction of, in fact, any student club that's on campus is not even allowed to talk about political stuff, which is kind of really funny to me. And so, yeah, just being in this very depoliticized place is a change, and it's just the challenges are different. The level of discussion is different. The level of conversation around any issue is different. But what I really appreciate is there's a lot of connection with indigenous issues here, which in a way that that is hard to see in other places, I think. So that really grounds a lot of stuff that we talk about and try to do. But yeah, so that's been really nice. But yeah, I've kind of been all over the place to answer your question. But Palestine stuff, I've been here and there involved since 2007, I would say, 2007, 2008. But yeah.
And then your collective, the St. John Community Coalition, is that the collective that was formed as an outgrowth of Palestine liberation to try and implement the free store and the free fair?
Yeah. So for the Palestine stuff, there is a group here which is called the Palestine Solidarity Committee of St. John, which was already in existence and has been here since 2018. The community coalition was created initially to fight a industry here. So it was initially envisioned as a meta group for different issues, and there was a couple of climate-related issues. There was what is called the American Metals Factory here, which was creating a lot of emissions, and people were fighting back against that and trying to shut it down. We didn't shut it down, but so that's how initially it was created. But then when we started doing the Palestine stuff and we realized there's all these different needs in the community, we kind of pivoted the community coalition. And it was an easy organization, I would say, to use because it's already registered, and we could use it as a body to they already had a website. They could use that to apply for funding, things like that. So there was a structure in place. We didn't have to create new structure. So that's pretty much why we used the community coalition. And now there's a bunch of affiliated projects that are not, I wouldn't say under the community coalition because there's no hierarchy, but just projects that the community coalition supports and distributes funding to and uses. Now, for example, in the free fair, we have Food Not Bombs providing food, right? So Food Not Bombs is one of the affiliate projects, and we do every Saturday we do a distro. So all that kind of just becomes more streamlined because we have that collective.
Now, getting back to the free store and the free fair, can you talk to our listeners about how that works? Because my understanding is it's very, very essential and very, very critical mutual aid. Who is providing the mutual aid? Is it just individuals who are volunteering? Do you also liaise with different community organizations, different businesses? The things that you are providing at the store and at the fair, where do they come from? Whether it's, food, whether it's clothing, whatever it is.
Yeah, so the free fair is, because it's such a big event, it brings together different pieces. One of the pieces is food. And for the food, we depend on Food Not Bombs. But because Food Not Bombs is already like a group that provides food for different things, they have these networks that you're talking about. So there's ways to source that food. There's stores that share food with us, especially during the free fair. Because we did it last year, we have a connection with grocery stores and bakeries and stuff like that, and they give us food. But through Food Not Bombs, we also have a set of volunteers who will take in raw material. And so for example, we're gonna actually this weekend and next weekend we're gonna make about 500 to 600 veggie burgers from scratch. So, that's a lot of work. And we have, thankfully, enough people that can come together. So outside of the food piece, then there's the services that are provided. So that's things like there's haircuts, there's tax services. Last year we had laundry services. We have a therapist and counselor that's going to be there. We have nail care and all kinds of different services. And that's also different community groups because through the free fair, through Food Not Bombs, we've done a bunch of like community panels and town hall events. So we've worked with different community groups through the last 2 or 3 years. And so the name St. John Community Coalition is familiar enough in this town that people know that we're doing the free fair. So sometimes people reach out on their own and they offer to provide a service, or they will have an information table or something like that. Musicians will reach out to come play for free at the free fair, and we have artists who will do like either a workshop or set up a supplies table for kids, and there'll be like a community canvas that's usually there. So it's a lot of community organizations that come together. Sometimes we reach out to them before the free fair. It's a couple of 2 or 3 months of work to even get the logistics going. And so, yeah, the mutual aid conversation of it is, of course, a little bit more nuanced, I would say, because we live in such a unbalanced society that some people have a lot and other people don't have anything. So, to do truly mutual aid, I think is harder,
Mhm.
right? If we were in a place like Gaza where everybody truly depends on each other, but here, because that
Mm.
inequality makes it harder to do true mutual aid. But I would also think of it as a lot of wealth redistribution.
Mm.
So a lot of these services, a lot of the food, a lot of the stuff we're providing is for free, and there's no barriers to access, right? Anybody can come in this space, anybody can take whatever they want, and anybody can also contribute whatever they want. So in that sense, we're creating a space and sort of a model for how things can be. And I think that's kind of the idea.
And why evolve from a free store to a free fair? What was the thinking behind that change?
It's interesting you asked that because it's connected to the previous question that you were just asking about mutual aid. So when we were doing the free store, one of the criticisms that came from the group itself was this is playing into consumer culture,
Oh, interesting.
right? Because people were like, all you're doing is taking consumer products from the haves to the have-nots, right? And you're kind of just doing that. And another thing that was happening during that is people would come to the free fair, they would bring these big grocery bags, they would grab a bunch of stuff and leave, right? And that's not the point. The point is to create a space where people can make relationships in the long term. People can hang out, talk about issues in the community. So it was to create that space. But with the free store, what was happening was people were thinking of it as a Black Friday sale or something, which we really did not want that, right? So it was a good start, I think. It was a good thing to do because there is genuine need in the community. So a lot of stuff people were taking away. It wasn't that they don't need it, but we wanted the focus to be on community building and relationship building. So the free fair actually does better with that because it's so you can imagine it's a large park, large area where people can just sit and hang out and have food and listen to the music and do art, and their kids can play around. And the town hall, people can participate in the town hall, right? And it is a work in progress. So every time we've done one of these free stores or free fairs, we've experimented with how do you curate the space? How do you curate different things so that people hang out more, so that people talk more? And then there's also the issue of like, I was telling you, St. John is very white, right? So what tends to happen is all the white folks hang out in one space, and then all the Arabs hang out in one space, and that tends to happen. So we were also brainstorming, how do you get people to mingle more and talk to each other? And so all these are like questions in progress, and we experiment every time we do something, and something works and something doesn't work. You know.
What are the politics of the collective and the free fair, if there are one dominant strain of politics? I assume it's anti-capitalist, but is it explicitly anarchist? Are there all different flavors of leftist?
I think there's a lot of anarchist-leaning folks
Mhm.
in the group, and the only reason I hesitate to kind of say um, that like we're completely anarchist is because I think not a lot of people relate to that label
Hmm.
or don't want that label, including myself. Like I came to all these politics through my grandmother, not through Kropotkin or Bakunin. So the politics of mutual aid, the politics of decentralized organizing, the politics of building that broad solidarity across different things. I think it's definitely very anarchist leaning, all of that stuff. And so I would say the politics are very much like that.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so
If you don't mind my asking, your grandmother sounds interesting. How did you come to this work through your grandmother?
well, I say grandmother, but I should say like my mom, my grandmother, and like that generation of women.
Yeah.
And so my grandmother, we had this ritual every month on the 13th of the month. It was tied to a religious ritual at the time. That every 13th of the month, people would come to our house, and I'm talking 40, 50 people, and there would be a meal prepared for these people. And these were all kinds of people. And the meal would be available anytime between like 2 or 3 in the afternoon to 10 in the night. And people would come and go in the house all the time. So there was a level of mutual aid that was built into the community that was not called mutual aid, obviously. But this kind of like building a interdependent network with people in your neighborhood and just meeting their needs, not just food needs, but also living needs. And even to this day, my mother is like, has this web. She's like a spider with different people sitting in this web that like if she wasn't around, I wouldn't even know what the connection of that person with my mother is, right?
Yeah.
But she knows the connection. And there's a level of interdependence which I think is really important to build in the community, especially in the context here in North America, where there's a lot of this individual, I'm going to have everything, my wealth, my house, my family, and all this stuff, right? So yeah, I definitely think that it has stayed with me, and I think of my own life as a very interdependent network of people, and I wouldn't be able to survive without these people, right?
It's true mutual aid.
Yes, in some sense, yes, it is. And I think that's what we should be aiming for, that kind of network.
Oh, that's a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah, of course.
What kind of opposition and hostility has the free fair and did the free store meet from the authority in St. John?
So I think for the most part, the authorities have ignored the free fair. There was this funny thing that happened last year when we were doing the first free fair. The city has this community grant that they give out, which is about $2,000, I think, or $1,800. So last year we thought, yeah, why not? We'll use it. And they did not know what it was, so they gave it to us. And then it turns out they have a clause that goes with it, which is that you cannot criticize the city if you take the city's money, which was absurd. And of course, we didn't follow it. But they got really mad after that, and they're not going to work with us anymore. But we also got into their crosshairs because they are proposing a data center here. Yeah, and a bunch of the community coalition members were involved in opposing that. So there was a public hearing at the city hall, and a bunch of coalition members were there, and they did not like that. And yeah, so we've been in their crosshairs about some of the Palestine stuff as well. And so it hasn't been a good relationship with the city or the province for that matter. But yeah, otherwise they've kind of neglected the free fare because there's not much they can do, right? We're not technically breaking any laws. We're not really doing anything disruptive or subversive in that way, in the legal way. So they'll have sometimes cops going around or stuff like that, but not really. They haven't really interfered with it.
Yeah, the fact that you may not be breaking the law or doing anything subversive, at least on the surface, does not always stop the authorities, unfortunately, from interfering to our project's detriment.
Yeah, for sure. To be like a little bit humble, I think it's also that we're not big enough yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I
You're
think
still flying. You're still flying under the radar.
Yeah, for sure.
That's interesting. I mean, to that point, uh, I don't want to ask you confidential details, but I'm curious,
Yeah.
has the collective started to brainstorm what might the response be when the authorities really start taking a closer look at the free fare and the free store and maybe start interfering a lot more than they've already been doing? Has that been a topic of conversation at all?
I think that has come up not directly in that way, but indirectly because, like I said, the collective is like a group of groups, right?
Mhm.
So there's different people who've done different things in the city, and some of them have gotten in trouble.
Mhm.
And this issue has definitely come up of like, how do we deal with authorities? How do we deal with cops? And now they have private security here,
Mhm.
Garda World. So how do we deal with that? So that conversation has definitely come up, not directly in the context of the free fare, but in the context of the coalition, because somebody getting in trouble kind of affects it depending on how closely attached the action was to the coalition, right? So yeah, that has definitely come up. It really depends on the tactic so far.
Mhm.
So we haven't, I wouldn't say we have directly faced any consequences for actions, but individual people have definitely faced blowbacks for different actions. And we have tried to keep it separate. So, we kind of have an understanding of don't ask, don't tell.
Sure.
So if you're doing subversive stuff, all the best. And yeah, so people, I think, try at least. So one of the things we have with the community coalition is something called Ring Zero, which is a group that works around OPSEC and digital privacy, all that stuff. So I think because of that, we've also had some information about good security culture,
Mhm.
stuff like that. So overall, I think we've been okay so far on that front.
That's wonderful. That's great to hear.
Yeah.
I was intrigued earlier towards the beginning of the conversation. You were talked about how for this year's free fare, you started this town hall in which you're building towards more direct action. I'm hoping you can
Mhm.
talk more about the town hall, how that functions, and what sort of direct action folks might be wanting to move towards.
Right. So again, this is one of those conversations that's very much in its infancy right now. And one of the things we realized last year is that there is actually no forum in this city or in this province where people can come together and talk about their issues. Right? There's actually nothing. And the city doesn't provide any forums like this. Neither does the province. So we uh, the whole thing started with the unhoused population in this city, and we had 39 people who died in the winter last year.
Wow.
And so, sometime last year, we had a memorial event for these people. This year, actually, in March, we had a memorial for these 39 people. And it was proposed during the memorial that we also do a town hall because this was a good space where a bunch of people came to pay their respects, right? So, Food Not Bombs provided food, and we did a town hall just after the memorial. And it was a 2-hour event, very well attended. And there was lots of conversations. We talked about the city's zoning policy, where they were removing encampments and creating these red zones and green zones, which I'm sure DC is also familiar with. And they were hiring these private security people from Garda World to patrol uptown.
Mhm.
So that's what we discussed in the town hall. And that was the first one that happened earlier this year. And the response was amazing. Everybody was very interested in this concept, and people wanted more of this.
Mhm.
So we we decided we were trying to figure out how do we do this again, maybe do it more periodically. And the free fair was coming up, so we were like, okay, why not? We will have hundreds of people there.
Hmm.
So maybe throw in a town hall there and see how it goes. And like I said, a lot of this stuff is experimental, right? So in terms of direct action, so the last town hall led to a lot of conversations, but not a lot of direct action.
Mhm.
And we were not thinking about it at the time because it was the first one and we were just trying to see how it goes. Um, but the idea of direct action is also new here, right? So even getting people to the point of, so you can kind of get together, talk about these things and solve your own problems, at least start somewhere small,
Mhm.
as opposed to appeal to the city or the province for everything and wait for the right politician to come in. I think even getting that across would be a win,
Yeah.
right? Because even now, even with the data center stuff, for example, people are still petitioning. People are trying to, even though the city has overruled us, the province has overruled us, but people are still trying to do that.
Mhm.
And I think at some level, it's good to like introduce those ideas and push in that direction. So that is the idea. So hopefully we can, and we're not going into this with an agenda. We want it to be a truly open conversation and
Mhm.
for people to come with their own ideas. So we'll see how it goes, I guess.
How has the community reacted to the free fair?
It's been pretty good. People, I think, because the free stores were such a big hit, the free fairs have become kind of a continuation of that, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people come in, people relate to it in very different ways. So, some people come in just to take stuff because they need this or that and they know this is a space where they can get it. Some people come because they want their kids to hang out in a fair like environment. Right? Some people come because they want to play music or listen to music and go to a park and be in this space. Some people come because they like the kind of work we're doing and maybe want to engage with us more. A lot of people come in and be like, hey, how can I be part of the organizing next time or be volunteer next time or all the different projects y'all are doing, stuff like that. So different people come at it from different angles. Overall, we've had very positive response. I suspect some of it is also because people still think this is some kind of charity,
Mm.
which works well always. Um, But yeah, I don't think we've had anything super negative yet. We always get feedback about. So, for example, one of the things that used to happen before was stuff was not very accessible for wheelchairs and stuff like that because we were doing it in a space which was free for us, but it was not accessible. So we had to change that, and we have changed that. And so that was from feedback from community who were like, "Hey, the way your route in the free fair is designed. It's not very good for people with disabilities or older people. So we had to move around the sitting space somewhere else, the food somewhere else, and all that kind of stuff. So we do that loop of taking feedback, talking to people afterwards, and then seeing what happens. And one of the things we hope will come out of the town hall even is actually how to do the free fair better, or even if one of the things we have been wanting to do is take it, even the free fair itself should be decentralized, meaning instead of us doing one big free fair, different neighborhoods do their own free fairs. That would be ideal, I think. And we're happy to share resources, but we don't have to be dictating anything, right?
That sort of anticipates my next question, which is what do you and the collective envision to be the future of this project? Is it those more decentralized, community-based events and organizations?
Yeah, so there's multiple things I think we envision with this kind of thing. One is those, like you just said, different decentralized community based. So a lot of these communities have their community halls or like a space in their neighborhood where they can do this, right? So using those spaces to do more of these events, maybe like 3 times a year, 4 times a year, depending on what the need is. But we really want to convey to people that you don't need to be experts in anything to do this. Like all the people involved in the free fair, we are not project managers, we are not finance experts, we are not like cooks even, right? We're nothing. We are just a bunch of people. And I think that's really important to convey, that you can get a bunch of people together and you can just do this. So that would be great. Having a permanent space would be even nice, which we don't have right now, like a space that can be used partly as a repository of stuff that people can give and also people can take away, which is open every day or like, a few days a week. But that can also have services like bike repairs and sewing and electronics and all this kind of stuff, which a lot of cities have, right? I know Montreal is the nearest place here that has a system like this in their Baltimore set, and probably other spaces like Foul Lab. There's stuff like this in Halifax, which I'm aware of. So it would be great to set up a space like that, which allows like even a artist collective that can do screen printing or designing different things, or event spaces for musicians, jam spaces, all kinds of stuff, right? So it'll be great to have a space, like a permanent space that allows for all that. Yeah, that would be, I think that would be also a great way to push people for more direct action, because once you have a space, people have more agency.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. That's such an exciting project. Nam, I would be remiss if I let you go without asking you how you all came to know about Camas and how you came to apply successfully for one of this year's mutual aid microgrants.
So I was actually in Victoria a couple of years ago, and I happened to visit Camas. And I really loved the store. And at the time, I didn't know y'all do the grants or the podcast. And then last year, when we were applying for the city grant, we kind of had a bad taste in our mouth about that, because we were like, we don't really want to be taking city money.
Yeah.
So we after the free fair last year, we were like, okay, next time we should look for other grants. And so people went online and looked all over for grants, and that's how I think somebody found Camas grant. And we applied, and we didn't know what to expect because we've never applied for any grants. Actually, this was the first time.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad we were able to get through the application and get the money.
Me too. Well, it sounds like such a wonderful project, and I'm so glad you applied, and I'm so glad that you all are doing such incredible work in St. John. Just to remind our listeners, Nam is our first interviewee this year of our 2026 Mutual Aid Microgrant Project. As everybody knows, Camas is an anarchist-run collective, which means all of the money we make from selling books and merch after we pay for rent and electric bills, all of that money goes to our microgrant program, which goes to fund amazing organizations like the St. John Collective and incredible work like the Free Fair. So Nam, thank you so much for being on Seeds of Camas today. Thanks to all the other members of the St. John Community Coalition, and thank you for doing such great work with the Free Store and the Free Fair. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for inviting me and for all the wonderful work you all are doing at Camas.
Absolutely, my friend. Keep up the good work.
If Jesus Christ came back today like you threatened he will, which poor group of people do you think that he would kill? And who would Jesus choose to starve if you gave him the chance? And if there was a genocide, would he take a neutral stance? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine, or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would he say it's complicated and there's sinners on both sides? Or would he say that some people, they just deserve to die? If Jesus Jesus Christ rose from the dead and on a sidewalk slept, would you extend your hand to him or just watch where you stepped? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus hate the gay folk, the queer folk, or the trans? Would he suggest they end their lives according to God's plans? Would Jesus tell a homeless man to get a fucking job or turn his back on the poor? Would Jesus be a snob? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus build a border wall? Would Jesus drive a tank? Would Jesus be a landlord? Would Jesus run a bank? Would Jesus Christ feel safe in his skin if he came to your town? And would you still believe in him if you found out he was brown? Who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? Yeah, who would Jesus bomb? Tell me, who would Jesus bomb? Would it be kids in Palestine or how about Vietnam? Would Jesus bomb the atheists, the Muslims, or the Jews? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well, what would Jesus do? I want you to ask yourself, well,